let's just go with the NFC West. We'll start
NFC, give
there.
me NFC West, your number 4 team. Hit me with it, brother.
Number 4 team. It's actually a tie and a record here, but the team that only had one divisional win and worst record in the NFC West is the Arizona Cardinals at 6-11.
Ooh, 6-11 Arizona Cardinals, one win in the division. Not expecting a jump out of anything there. Marvin Harrison kind of getting on the same page as Kyler. No, not having it.
Yeah, look, I've not ever had faith in Jonathan Gannon. What he's been able to do as far as making the team exceed my expectations for them, I applaud him for that in recent years, but I still don't like. And to be completely honest, like I liked their draft this year and what they got out of it, but I just still don't find a team that scares me at all. I find them to be mediocre at best. Kyler is still a question mark. Is he truly the answer there? I think it's probably getting closer to a time where it's like that he might not be. Like I think Kyler's a good player, but it might be a time to mutually part ways and kind of restart things there. How long can their running game sustain with James Conner as the running back? He's been phenomenal there, but also a guy who encounters a lot of injuries. We know how running backs age quicker than other positions. And then Marvin Harrison, hopefully we start to see that big jump, but it's going to take a schematic change on offense to actually use him in the correct ways to see that jump happen, I think. They do have good players there, Trey McBride and whatnot. I'm just not super enthused by this team. I think they got a tough schedule. I got them at 6-11 with only one win in the division, putting them in that 4th place spot.
All right. So I have a different team in 4th place. Also at 6-11 though. 6-11 for me. I have the Seahawks coming in. Only one win in that division, 1-5. Listen, I'm not a big believer in your boy Sam Darnold. I think that what happened last year was a great storyline, and I think that excellent coaching and a really good team around him got a lot of things done. I do not have that similar faith in this Seahawks team. I think they lost a lot of talent. There's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of turnover, especially on the offensive line, running backs. I think Sam, I'm happy he got his money. He's going to have a really hard time with the weapons that are gone. Tyler Lockett, no DJ Metcalf. Now he's just stuck on JSN. So, he just doesn't have the people that he needs around him to support that growth that he saw with the Vikings. So I'm down on the Seahawks this year, man.
Yeah, look, I also have them at 6-11. They're my 3rd place team, except for they have 2 divisional wins. I'm kind of the same ilk. They bring in Clint Kubiak there to try to clean up some of their offensive stuff, but from seeing Sam Darnold firsthand, obviously he has a lot of arm talent. He has the ability to move a little bit, but a big part of his success last year is exactly what you brought up. Phenomenal coaching and quarterback rehab school. Kevin O'Connell is able to get the absolute most potential out of these guys, given their flaws. You also were surrounded by one of the best offenses for him to be able to flourish. When it came down to pressure situations, certain things breaking down, specifically that interior offensive line, Darnold kind of fell back to what he was. But he, to me, and this is more of a feeling than an anecdotal thing than really being able to quantify it, he seems fragile when it comes to his mental makeup. And maybe I'm completely wrong,
baby. He sees ghosts.
But he was so ruined from his time with the Jets that, he needed to have someone who was really like that caring, loving dad, pick him up all the time. And you get that in Kevin O'Connell because he understands the mind of a quarterback, and he's able to see this is one of the things that was able to derail Sam previously in his career, in addition to just being on terrible teams. But it's like, hey, you have a bad play and it's okay. We're going to be all right. We're going to pick it up. We're going to, a very positive mentor in Kevin O'Connell for Sam Darnold. I don't know that Clint Kubiak is going to be able to replicate that enough. And then you talk about some of that offensive weaponry being lost, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf not being there. They do bring in Cooper Kupp in order to help with JSN, but Cooper Kupp hasn't had great years. A lot of
those
injury
are very
issues.
similar guys. Like JSN's a slot, and so is Kupp. JSN can win on the outside, but he works better out of the slot.
You're going to be having to deal with more weather issues and stuff like that potentially up in Seattle. And so, like, I do see a degradation in his performance. I do think that I don't want to call it a one hit wonder because if we saw Sam Darnold again with the Vikings, I think that he would have probably another solid year.
Sure.
Not as good as last year. I think that was definitely
A little bit
like
of lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, but you're talking about a guy who, up until this point in his career, has not been great. Does break down mentally, and I think that at the first kind of sign of there being issues up there, he could falter. And then you have a guy in Jalen Milroe who obviously you and I both have had our issues with him as a draft prospect. Seattle has been pushing him a lot. I think that Jalen Milroe might be nipping at Sam Darnold's heels a lot more than people might expect. Um, Definitely a different style of quarterback play.
100%. They're
But
completely different types of quarterbacks.
But you talk about a guy who's coming from a system in Alabama who thinks that he should be a starter. Uh, like he's probably got the mentality to be like, okay, I'm coming for your job.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you should. It's Sam Darnold. You should be going in there and compete.
And you had JJ McCarthy last year as a rookie who probably has the same mentality. I'm going to work my ass off to try to be the starter. But Sam had a different type of pressure because the intention was never to start JJ McCarthy. Like apparently that competition got very close by the end of training camp before McCarthy got hurt, but the intention still wasn't to start McCarthy. Whereas they might be willing to move off of Darnold and throw in Milroe if things start to derail. And that will completely wreck him mentally, I think. I don't know if he's going to have that fortitude to continue going forward. Either way, I have the Seahawks also at 6-11, my third place team because they got 2 divisional wins. Who do you got in third place?
Third place, I have the Cardinals. I have them better than you do. I have them at 9-8. I do think that there will be a little bit of progression in what their offense can do. I think they also did a pretty decent job in trying to kind of replenish that defense. So I expect it to be a little bit of an increase. I thought Kyler coming back off the injury showed some promise. This is a team that not too long ago was competing for a playoff spot. I don't know that they're super far away, but I don't have them making the playoffs in my bracket. I think they're right around that 500 team, 9-8. You're not going to be excited, but you're not going to be terrible. It's kind of where they've been when Kyler's been healthy, right there in the middling section of the NFC. And that's kind of where I expect them to be again.
Yeah. And look, we obviously have to keep our eyes on this, but there's a potential Black Ops game coming out. How is that going to affect Kyler in his play?
Correct.
No. I already talked about the Seahawks. I don't feel like they have a good defensive identity, even though I think they have a lot of interesting, talented players there, young guys. And if they're able to develop well, that'll be awesome. But I also feel like they're like 1 or 2 injuries away on this team from it really derailing their season. And I bet on the latter there happening more than them just staying healthy. Look, if Kyler goes down, I think the season is lost. I think the record's even worse.
100%.
So, yeah, like I don't have a ton of confidence in them, but I look forward to them proving me wrong because I do like a lot of their offseason moves that they make. I do like the drafts that they had. I think that they have a lot of really interesting young players on that defense. It's can they develop them and who's going to kind of set the defensive identity there.
No, I have 100%. I feel that. I hear that. I just feel like there's going to be almost a regression back to their mean, and this is their mean. Like last year was down, Kyler was hurt, so there's a lot of things that were working against them. Gannon is a better coach than we gave him credit for early. I just don't think he'll ever get anybody over the hump. Yeah. Now, before we move on to 2 and 3, as we were going through this, you were bringing up quarterbacks, and I thought of this crazy scenario. And I'm sorry we're going completely off topic. Producer Amber's already yelled at me once about that Joey Chestnut clip. We were supposed to do that quick, and we did not.
Legend.
But if you could guarantee yourself a Super Bowl, but you close your window for any competition, and you open up a window for your division opponent, would you do it? because I think there's an interesting scenario because you guys have QB rehab school, right? You guys take QBs that are not necessarily great, but can be great with really good coaching coming from a Sean McVay system. If you swapped Michigan boy, JJ McCarthy, with Jared Goff down there in Michigan or down there in Detroit, Goff goes back to the system that he knew before, would probably be very good in that system, and your coach would be in control of that, knows the McVay thing. But and JJ McCarthy goes on, their window would open up. JJ McCarthy would be a fucking hero in Detroit. But you guys could compete. Would you do it? But you guys could win a Super Bowl. Because that's that missing piece for you guys. Because your team's very fucking good. We see what your coaching can do with a quarterback who is just adequately talented mentally, but supremely talented physically. Jared Goff, who has a little bit more of both, maybe get you guys over the hump.
Well, see, this is like, I think that McCarthy is the guy that already does that for us. However, in this scenario, we trade McCarthy for Goff, and this year we get a Super Bowl. And then after that, there's no window.
Yeah, we'll call it that way.
I
Is
think
right now Evo trading this year of happiness for whatever, however long, let's call it 10 years.
Dude, I've already gone a lifetime without a Super Bowl. What's another lifetime? That's the Vikings fan base. I hate to say it because I do love JJ McCarthy, but to kind of parrot what one of my favorite Vikings podcasts always says in Purple Daily, one before I die. That's all I ask. So if that's what it takes, and it doesn't mean bringing in an Aaron Rodgers or a Brett Favre or some bullshit like that, I'm open to it. I'm open to it. As much as I love JJ McCarthy, and I would still be a fan for him out there with the Lions, but I would enjoy that one Lombardi. Because this team has been to the Super Bowl 4 times and never won the whole thing. Minnesota needs a Super Bowl. We need to get one. And I want one in my lifetime. If there's a guarantee in there of it, then yeah, I'm open to it.
All right. I feel let's get into the rest of the NFC West. Team number 3 for you, brother. Go ahead.
Team number 3 for me and making the playoffs is the San Francisco 49ers. I have them at 9-8. I can't remember who it was. Maybe Terrell Owens or someone said that they are still the best team in the NFL recently, which is wild. Look, the Ayuk stuff.
Yeah,
they botched that.
There's a billion different things I could say to why they're not the best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
they're good.
They still have a lot of talent on there. I am scared about that receiving core. Not just Ayuk. I mean, Ricky Pearsall looks to be, a decent receiver and everything. No Debo there anymore. Christian McCaffrey, can he hold up to a full year? Like his career has shown
that Shanahan dude. Listen, for all the great things that Christian McCaffrey is, he's a fucking stud. But Mike Shanahan is the one that started this offense and made everybody a 1,200-yard rusher. Didn't matter who you put in the fucking backfield. And then I got updated by Clint Kubiak. And then it gets updated by now Shanahan. Like, this system has been around forever. It works. That's why everybody runs this system, because you can run the fucking ball. I'm not trying to take anything away from Christian McCaffrey, but if they don't have Christian McCaffrey, we've seen it already happen. Any motherfucker can go back there with a brain and run the zone system as long as he can spot a hole. That's why high schools run it all the time. That's why we teach it to young kids. The zone system is one of the easiest blocking systems for linemen and running backs to read.
Yeah, look, and that's fair. I just think that there's a completely different element when you have a healthy Christian McCaffrey in the field.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, he's special.
And I don't trust that can be a thing. Like, his lifetime history in the NFL has been rife with injuries. We've had a small run where he wasn't super injured with the 49ers, and they looked like they were the best team in the NFC, one of the best teams in football during that time. But now they are aging. They just paid out a lot of money to Brock Purdy. There's question marks about whether or not, he is worth that sort of money. And I think those are reasonable questions, despite the fact that I really like Brock Purdy. And I think that very
He
much
got a
so, like a
lot of
lot of
fucking
teams.
money. That's a
Yeah, for
lot of
sure.
money.
But like you surround him with a lot of talented guys and you run that simple of a system with a good head coach, and you're going to get good results. And that's what we saw, except for that timeline ran out because you had to pay Purdy. And you have a lot of guys who are old, aging veterans. People have left the team.
That
Getting
offensive
Robert Saleh
line
back
that
is
offensive line
big.
is going to be in trouble because they're getting old real fucking fast. And Joe, uh, he, our big fan of the 49ers, loves them. I'm sure he's got to be terrified about the way this offensive line is going to go. I'm sure he's happy to have Trent back, but Trent has shown that he's starting to become a little older. He's starting to, now when he's on the field, he's pretty good. Can he stay healthy? Can that offensive line stay healthy in general? Can this team stay healthy?
Yeah. And that's, like I said, I have them at 9-8. I have them getting into the playoffs. I still think they're a good team. They're an old team. They're going to be more scrappy, but they're getting by a lot on that veteran talent that is there. That is still definitely above average. You're going to get boosts from just having good veterans on the team, but not great veterans anymore. And then also you do have a good coaching staff there. 9-8, they are fringe playoff team, but I have them getting in.
All right. All right. So my second team, I also have the 49ers. I have them a little better than you. Actually, I have them at 11-6, but they are also my last team getting into the playoff. I think that this NFC is going to be a little top heavy this year. So 11-6 is the last playoff spot. We just talked about them. They have a shitload of talent. The coaching is fantastic. You can find ways to win with fucking anybody with the Shanahan system. As long as your quarterback pulls the trigger when he's supposed to the right guy. It's monkey see, monkey do. That's why a lot of people don't like running it, because it takes away the creativity of the quarterback. Brock Purdy is perfectly content running this because he's got paid a fuckload of money doing it. So I think they're going to be a pretty good, solid team if they stay healthy. I anticipate their health being a little bit better than it has been the last year and a half, because it feels like they've been decimated.
Yeah, look, health has been a big issue for them for the past couple of years. Honestly, it's derailed some of those playoff runs and whatnot. It's been an issue. I question the health. I don't know that they're going to be healthier, because you still have, like, again, a Brandon Ayuk who has obviously got some issues with the team, who has recently come out and talked about his health issues and how he was treated by the team and everything with those health issues. And you have a lot of aging stars. Christian McCaffrey, oft injured. Trent Williams, oft injured. So I'm not completely sold.
Okay. I get that. We still have them both in the same playoff spot, 7th in the playoffs. I got them a couple of games higher.
I got them at 6th.
Oh, you have them at 6th?
They're the 6th seed in my playoffs.
Oh, I got them as my 7th seed. I have a top-heavy NFC this year. My AFC actually is very not that way. Very bottom-heavy this year.
And that leaves first place for us both with the LA Rams at this point.
Yeah, I got them at 11-6, 5-1 in the division.
All right. And I have them at 12-5 at first in the division. Look, this is McVay. We didn't expect them to be as good as they were last year, and they definitely turned it on towards the end of the year. That defense had a bunch of no-name guys on it, and they made those no-name guys fill in spots and do really well, supplemented by good drafting of young players. You're not replacing Aaron Donald like that, but they're getting good production out of those guys. They are very flexible with their scheme. They're seeing good stuff out of the offense. They're continuing to make Matt Stafford look fantastic. Yeah, you lose a guy in Cooper Kupp, but you weren't getting much out of him last year anyways, because he was injured and he's aging and kind of on that decline. I like their draft this year was unspectacular, but I do like the guys that they brought in. They brought another edge guy in the 3rd round, Josiah Stewart, who's a solid contributor. Terrence Ferguson, who has a lot of upside as a second round pick at tight end, which is a spot that they desperately needed to kind of add to. Another big body receiver out there for Matt Stafford. Jarquez Hunter in the fourth round is a running back that I'm a big fan of, who I think is going to fit into that rotation really well. Ty Hamilton out of Ohio State, a defensive tackle, good pickup. Chris Paul, Pooh Paul, in round 5 as well, and another receiver in Kanata Mumfield, which they seem to be able to kind of have a weird array of wide receivers and good production out of them because that McVay system is so good at scheming things up. I think the coaching plus that veteran leadership from Stafford and then this defense, which is young and kind of coming out of nowhere, I think it's going to be a really solid team again. So I got them going 12-5. And look, I got to see firsthand what that team can do twice last year. The Vikings lost to 2 teams last year, the Lions and the Rams, and they lost 4 times because of it. I know that those teams are good. And so I have some faith in the Rams still being good again this year.
Yeah, so I feel the same way. I had them 11-6. I had them 5-1 in the division, but Matthew Stafford is still the best quarterback in this division when he's healthy. Probably the best coach in this division, McVay. They're very close with Shanahan. I love Shanahan, so that's very close to being a toss-up. Offensive minds, a little bit of different philosophy, but the Rams have done an excellent job of replenishing that defense. They have found guys. They have hit on guys who make up what Aaron Donald was in the aggregate. It's not one dominant dude. They have found really nice pieces all throughout this defense, and I really trust Sean McVay to find a way to score points. He finds a way to do it with quarterbacks that you've never heard of. Baker Mayfield won a game with 2 days' notice because of Sean McVay. So if Sean McVay is calling the plays and you got a healthy Matt Stafford, that's the best quarterback coach combo in that division, hands down. I'd say Stafford's proven on a higher scale than Brock has that he can do it. So that's where I'm leaning hard.
Yeah. And look, as a side note with this Rams team, look, Stafford probably has a year left in him, and it's probably this year. And they absolutely can make a deep playoff run with him. But beyond that, they are poised to make a really big selection in the first round next year and go after a quarterback. They traded back with Atlanta this year. They picked up an extra first next year. I don't have super high hopes for Atlanta this year. We haven't talked about the NFC South yet. We'll get there. But I don't have super high hopes for them
either.
And so, they could be in position with 2 first-round picks to make some aggressive moves in what is expected to be a good quarterback class. And you have a coach in McVay who is good with quarterbacks, good with offense, good at developing. So they absolutely could be in position to make a quick trade-off from Stafford to a young kid and not see a huge drop-off. So they are in a window, a deep playoff run window, and they might not take too much of a step back if Stafford does retire after the year.
Absolutely, brother.